What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Sports Nerds for probably our biggest show of the year. It is Super Bowl week, few days away from the Super Bowl. Of course, we have the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers matching up in this year's Super Bowl. And I'm Brock Bierman alongside, as always, my buddy Dawson Livingston. And what a jersey selection he's got on today. He's got the black Kansas City look. I'm assuming it was like some special on Fanatics or something like that. Is that where you got it?
Yep.
And I tell you what, San Francisco had a couple of those on Fanatics. I thought about getting one, but I was like, it looks too much like Kansas City's because I remember seeing those on Kansas City's website for a while. And I was like, I don't know if I want to look. We would have looked too similar today on the podcast. But real quick before we really dive into the game, I did want to mention, Is that jersey new by chance, or have you had
Within
that
the
for a while?
last year?
Okay.
It's new. I got it like last June sometime, last July.
So how's your experience with Fanatics? Have you had any issues ever with their delivery stuff?
I usually don't, funny enough. It usually takes about a week and a half. The only time I've ever had an issue with stuff is ordering the Super Bowl merch. That's it. And that can typically take 3-4 weeks. But
Are you
that's the
talking about
longest I've
like the
ever had.
championship gear, or are you talking about the leading up? Okay.
Yeah, afterwards. Like, because I've done that the last two Super Bowls. I bought it like immediately after the game as soon as they dropped it, and I end up not getting it till beginning of March usually.
Yep. So I actually, this is how bored I was in the middle of a class. I got bored and I was like, I'm going to just look on Fanatics, and I found a bunch of jerseys. They had the alternate looks that they don't actually wear. So I bought this one that I was fortunate enough to get in time, as well as two other ones. I got a Kittle one, and then I also got like this gray Purdy one that looks pretty cool. Big Kittle fan for people that don't know. I actually like Kittle's one of my favorite players of all time. But when I ordered it, this one wasn't supposed to. No, this one was supposed to be here today. Actually showed up 3 days ago. The Kittle one was supposed to be here by the end of the week last week. It has not shown up. And then the Purdy one, the gray Purdy one, was supposed to be here today, and it's not. Actually, if I remember correctly, this one was supposed to actually show up after the Super Bowl. So the only two that were supposed to show up before the Super Bowl were the Kittle one and the gray Purdy jersey. And the Kittle one shipped literally the day after I ordered that jersey. So last week on Tuesday, I got a notification saying that was shipped. It's now back in Arizona, according to the travel, like the tracking your shipment thing on UPS. This one shipped on, I think, Monday, I think it was Monday, and got here on Wednesday. And then the Purdy one shipped yesterday, but somehow says it's supposed to be delivered here either today or tomorrow. So I don't get this whole shipment thing. I just wanted to get on my soapbox for a little bit, especially because the one that was supposed to be here before anybody was the Kittle one, and somehow now it's back in Arizona. I don't know how it got all the way to Kansas City, the area of Des Moines. Maybe the people in Kansas City saw it was a 49ers jersey and manipulated it, and now it's back in Arizona. But here we are, and I am without my Kittle jersey as well as my other Purdy jersey, the two that were supposed to be here before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had an experience with that with Fanatics, where it just gets completely shipped back to the wrong place or the place it first came from. But no, that's kind of wild when you hear that.
I just had to get on my soapbox for that. I don't know why it's been such a struggle for me, but I'll get them at some point. Hopefully, I guess, knock on wood, I actually do get them at any point. But enough about my issues about getting a jersey. Let's dive into the reason we're here. It's Super Bowl week. Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers, Mahomes versus Purdy, Kittle versus Kelsey, Swifties versus everybody else. I mean, what part of the game do you want to start with? I mean, I predicted this game before the season started, so I knew that Kansas City was going to be back. You knew Kansas City was going to be back in the Super Bowl.
We don't need to talk about my NFC pick. That one can stay aside. I changed right before the playoffs. I jumped off the ship right before.
I was just going to say that you jumped off right in time because preseason wise, you're on the wrong, which is okay. It happens. Everybody's wrong about something at some point.
That's the thing is I will never make that mistake again with that team. Who
And
shall be nameless right now.
definitely not a team in Texas. But anyways, the playoff wise, you jumped on the 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl bandwagon, and here we are. What are your thoughts? Are you excited for this matchup? I think personally this is the best matchup that could have happened in the NFL this year. Um, I, I think San Francisco has pound for pound the best team, and Kansas City is probably the most marketable team in the NFL right now. So I think this is a great matchup. I'm happy it's happening. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is a great matchup. It's a rematch of Super Bowl 54 when Kansas City played San Francisco in Miami. And we all know how that game ended. San Francisco was up 10 and late in the fourth. Kansas City ended up coming back and winning and really starting the gosh, I was gonna say GOAT progress of Mahomes, but yeah, that's what it is. GOAT chase.
Yep.
But
Yep.
No, it is a great game. A lot of interesting matchups. Both teams have really good defenses. Both teams have really good offenses. I know San Francisco's is probably a little bit better than Kansas City's as they've been struggling the last few months. But what I've seen from Kansas City in the playoffs has been really promising. As someone who's picked them to make it to this game and potentially win this game. So I don't know. I really like the matchup. Like you said, I think it is the best matchup we could have gotten over the Ravens making it or the Lions making it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
And we talked before we actually went on the air for this podcast. I think we both agree that this will probably be the most watched Super Bowl of all time, given all of the not even just the game aspects, the outside aspects that are being added to this. It's in Vegas, which I feel draws a lot more as well. Credit to all these like different organizations that are in Vegas as well this week that are kind of tailing off the Super Bowl, which I mean, I know a bunch of people and a bunch of leagues do that already, but like, I think Live Golf has an event down there this week or something like that. Also, like the WWE was down there last night for a huge. It was literally just an interview show, but yet their stadium was over half filled. They only actually used half of the stadium to limit capacity, anyways. But the Super Bowl is probably the biggest media event in the world every year, and with it being in Vegas, with of course I mean, we can't hide it. With Taylor Swift being involved in some way, shape, or form, this will be the most watched Super Bowl of all time.
I totally agree. I feel like a lot of those Swift fans that maybe weren't necessarily watching the game, maybe we're only watching the game for the halftime show usually, because I feel like that's what a lot of people do if they're not really interested in football. So they'll watch the halftime show and then after that they'll usually stop watching the game or at least just have it on the background and not really pay attention. No, I do feel like we're gonna reach record viewership. I'm curious to see on Monday when they come out with viewership counts or sometime later next week that if it doesn't reach at least like I said before, I said 150 million, which is 35 million more than they had last year or around that. But like you said, they've attracted a lot of new fans to the sport this year. So we'll see. I definitely think, like you said, it helps that they're in Vegas. It helps that you have the face of the league that's in this game too, and you have a great
Brock
fan
Purdy,
base.
right?
And
Brock Purdy's the face of the league.
uh,
Sorry.
no, that's fine. But and with the Niners having a great fan base and the Chiefs having a great fan base, I think it's going to reach record viewer counts.
And of course, tickets for the Super Bowl are like. Can we both agree that we'll probably never go to a Super Bowl?
Nope.
Like, it's probably never going to happen. I think I'd rather pay for an entire 7-game series of the NBA Finals ticket wise than ever pay for a Super Bowl ticket.
There's a Motel 6 in Vegas that was charging like $600 a night this week. And that's not even like Saturday, Sunday. That was just like Tuesday or Wednesday because of how many fans are showing up for the Super Bowl. And it's not even like the sheer number of fans, in my opinion. It's all the big dollar fans that want to go to the game. Like you said, it's one of the biggest media outlets that the U.S. has, and arguably that the world has, other than maybe the World Cup and the Olympics. But with all the celebrities that are in town, I mean, a lot of them get in town on Monday. They stay throughout the whole week and do events and shows and stuff like that. So it's just really curious. It's funny to see the prices of just Super Bowl stuff in general. Like the suites are $2.5 million now, and you can only have 20 people in a suite. The cheapest ticket's what, $7,000? I think it's seven.
I think so. Yeah. Yep.
And that's for like the top corner in the 300 level. Like you can't even see the field.
Yep.
But you usually don't see a lot of true fans, in my opinion, go to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's really what it's about, because there's never like a home. There's never like, I don't know. Whenever I've watched Super Bowl, I don't really hear that many fans cheering.
Yep.
If that makes sense. It's just a lot of wealthy fans that want to say, "Hey, I was able to go to the Super Bowl." There are some exceptions. There are some regular fans that are able to go and be able to buy those tickets. But I feel like typically it's just a lot of either companies that are giving tickets away or giveaways or just stuff like that in general.
I completely agree. I think the one exception I can think of when like the fans were kind of like really, really involved would have been the one between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. But like that was in Tampa, as well as, they like it wasn't full capacity, and most of the people there were the essential workers that worked in the Tampa area. So that may be one exception, but like it's not like a huge example, because there were so many limitations on that Super Bowl.
Right. Like when it comes to third down, and let's say the Niners are on offense, you're not going to hear 70,000 Chiefs fans screaming. You're going to hear a pretty quiet stadium.
It would be cool if it was kind of like a college football playoff field where you were getting both fan bases divided, and like you can, of course, this year it would just be two shades of red, but like the divided like field where like one side's one color, one side's the other color, and the energy is actually like, oh, this is a huge game versus, oh, we're here at the Super Bowl. Because saying we're at the Super Bowl is more of like a look at me versus we're here to watch a game, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. What would be cool is, I know they do this for college, like you said, the CFP and games like that, where they have the student sections and they put them
Yep.
like in the corner of the end zones. That would be really cool to implement, but there's just absolutely no way the NFL would ever sacrifice that many seats
Nope.
unless the organizations are willing to pay for those seats. But even then, lower Super Bowl seats are like 20,000 to 30,000 a piece, which is
Yeah,
pretty
it's
absurd.
one of those things where it's like you wonder if you could give them to the organizations and make them like find sponsorship deals or whatever to sponsor them on those seats. But like at the same time, like you mentioned, the per seat price is absurd, to the point where it's like you can barely find one sponsor that would be able to even cover probably even not even a fourth of what that would cost.
Well, 10 seats at $30,000 a pop is 300,000. 100
Exactly.
seats is 3 million. Like I could, and that's not even an entire section sometimes. Some sections are way more than 100 seats. So to buy an entire section would just be not feasible for either team or the league.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, and just the whole added stuff. I'll be interested to see if they actually do like release like the probably the total revenue gain from like different shows, different companies in the Vegas area, as well as the media people that actually took advantage of the sorry, I just got a message on my laptop. But just all the added stuff, I want to see like what kind of revenue they make throughout this week, because they wouldn't be going here if they weren't making money. All these shows, all these extra things that are happening, and so I love the Super Bowl because of the media aspect of it more than the actual game itself. And maybe that's me being a Cardinals fan that will never see his team win a Super Bowl. Of course, I'm wearing a 49ers jersey today, so a bunch of Cardinals fans are probably upset that I'm even doing that. But, got to rep my boy Brock Purdy. But anyways, it's in Vegas this year. A lot of people are going to be placing bets this weekend. We won't get too in depth on that, but right now where it stands, it looks like the 49ers are favored at 1.5, according to the ESPN site. And they're also favored minus 122, where the Chiefs on the other end are plus 102. Interesting to see, given the history of the Chiefs being in the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, in my personal opinion, as well as how these two teams have been playing recently. Chiefs last game, I felt like played better than anyone in the NFC or the AFC championship games. And I felt like their offense was starting to click. Travis Kelce looked like Travis Kelce of old. But yet the 49ers are favored by 1.5. What do you think are the reasons behind that?
Well, everyone's still going to point out the fact that Kansas City, although they won the AFC title game, they didn't score a single second half point. And I think they scored a field goal in the second quarter. So the offense kind of was pretty stagnant in the second half. But I'll just leave it at this. Every time that Kansas City's been in the Super Bowl with the Mahomes era and they've been underdogs, they've won. The one exception where they were the favorite was the Tampa Bay Super Bowl, which we know what happened in that Super Bowl. But they were dogs last year against Philly. They were dogs the first time against the Niners, and now they're, what'd you say, 1.5 point dogs in this game? I don't know. Well, with the line being that short, though, I feel like Vegas just doesn't want it to be a pick 'em where it's even money on both sides. So I feel like that's why they're kind of leaning more towards the Niners.
And I mean, let's be honest, the Chiefs aren't really an underdog. They've been here before. They've won it twice. They've been here 3 times total, right? 3 times. Is it already 3 times?
What, the Chiefs?
Yeah.
It's 4th. This is the 4th.
Fourth? Who did they lose to? Oh, wait, duh. Sorry. Kids,
trust me, I forget about that Bucks one. I don't want to remember that Bucks one either. That was a pretty sad day.
No, I was just gonna say learn how to add, because I was like, wait, they won 2 and lost 1. How is this their 4th? No, I don't know what was going through my head. But anyways, they're not underdogs. If they win, I'm sorry, if they do win and they are like, no, everybody was doubting us, blah, 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 it's going to annoy me even more, because I think they did that a little bit last year. At least their radio announcer did. But hey, he's the radio announcer. He's supposed to create controversy. He's supposed to rile up the fans and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, Mitch is one of the best radio guys, if not the best NFL radio guy in the entire league. You're listening to Kansas City football when you hear touchdown Kansas City. And so, no, don't get me wrong, I love the guy. I love actually listening to him as a non-Kansas City Chiefs fan. But nobody's an underdog in this game.
No, I agree. And really quick, the other radio announcer that I love listening to is the Vikings one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. What's his name?
Let me look that up real quick.
Oh, my God. He is so fun. The clip of when he's doing the call against Saints Vikings when Brett Favre throws the ball across the middle.
Paul Allen.
Oh, my God. Every time I hear that clip, I just cannot do anything but laugh, because it's just the way he sounds and just the way he just is so emphatic about it is pretty funny. But I agree.
We need that in the league, though.
Yeah, we need more people like the Hornets announcer, in my opinion. We need someone that's
Terry, too cool. I love. Too bad Terry's not there anymore for the Hornets.
Dude. They don't have Terry or PJ, but no, I agree. Neither team's really an underdog. I do, and I said this before we started recording, I do feel like Kansas City is, sorry for the pun here, but they're playing with house money, because no one wanted them to be here. No one thought they would be here. This is easily we both did. When you look at the general public, I think most people were saying they were writing Kansas City off, because if you remember at the start of the playoffs, I saw some lists out there that the scariest AFC teams. Number 1 was Baltimore, as they should have been. Number 1 seed, 13 wins. 2 was Buffalo. Didn't really like that. A lot of people at 3 had the Browns, which we saw what happened in that game against the Texans. And 4 was Kansas City. So I don't know. I feel like they're playing with house money. I feel like if they lose this one, it's not really going to affect the Chiefs that much.
If it does, people are blowing it way out of proportion.
Exactly. You can't have the two sides of the extreme where it's like, hey, if you win, you are elevated into a different stratosphere of dynasties where you win 2 in a row, 3 in 5 years. Like, you're in a different sphere. Where if you lose, it's like, oh, you're frauds, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, you guys didn't really expect this team to be here in the first place. So how can we go so far on the other side?
Yeah. And like that's how those day shows on the networks will
They want
be
clicks. They
yeah.
want clicks.
If Kansas City loses this one, it'll be, oh, is the dynasty over? Is Mahomes not clutch? Is it time for Kelsey to actually be moved on? Like they'll write these
Oh, yeah.
stupid headlines that actually mean nothing to what actually happened in the game. Now, if someone absolutely gets embarrassed,
Yeah.
I can
Then
see
that's a
why.
different argument. That's a different argument. That's a
But
different
I don't
outcome.
see that game go. I don't see this game going that way. That's just how
No.
both teams are kind of shaped up to be. The thing that I love about this matchup specifically is that the two strongest parts of both teams will be facing each other. San Francisco's offense is the best part of that team, and Kansas City's defense. If we're being honest, Kansas City's defense is the big reason. If not, I think Mahomes is number one just because Mahomes not being on that team. I don't think they make the Super Bowl. No offense to Chiefs fans.
They don't.
Number two, if that defense isn't the defense that we know from this season, they're not in the Super Bowl as well. So the San Francisco offense going up against the Kansas City defense, which also means technically the weaker sides of both teams, Kansas City's offense versus San Francisco's defense. Because let's be honest, San Francisco's defense has struggled the last couple games, and they've had to come back because of that. Kansas City, on the other hand, receivers have struggled a little bit. It seems like they're starting to figure it out. Pacheco had a good game on the ground against the Ravens, so that's, in my opinion, a red flag if I'm not cheering for Kansas City, as in, oh no, if they figured out how to run the ball with Pacheco, this could be really dangerous. Which side of the ball, matchup wise, intrigues you the most? I am really intrigued by the actually the weaker side, where it's the Kansas City offense versus the 49ers defense, because it's, can Mahomes be able to prove that he's a top 3 quarterback of all time? Because we've both said if he wins, top 3 all time. Or can San Francisco's defense actually become the defense that everybody saw during the regular season, as well as everybody thought would carry this team to a Super Bowl? Because it seemed like a lot more people were talking about how this defense was going to carry the 49ers more than the offense was.
The matchup I'm really wanting to see how it's going to unfold is, like you said, the Chiefs offense versus the Niners defense, but for other reasons. I know everyone's going to talk about the passing game. Well, I do think the Niners secondary can definitely be had. I do see some weaknesses back there. The matchup I'm watching for is if Kansas City's able to run the ball. Now, Kansas City will be without their best offensive lineman in this game, and Joe Thuney. He tore his pec against the Bills, didn't play against the Ravens game. So backup offensive lineman Nick Allegretti is going to have to step in. And as a Chiefs fan, I remember the last time Nick Allegretti started a Super Bowl. That was the Tampa Bay Super Bowl. So I'm a little concerned in that aspect, but I feel like when you got guys like Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and I know that the tackles have struggled this year, but they've been playing some great ball in the playoffs. I still really like that matchup for Kansas City. It'll be interesting. I do feel like this Niners defense can be had. I know they have some playmakers on that side of the ball, and Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, former Chief, and Javarius Ward. So we'll see. I do think it'll be not a low-scoring game, but I don't think it's going to be in the 30s either. And we'll get to the score predictions later on. But yeah, that's probably the matchup I'm looking forward to the most.
I am interested as well from that standpoint. What are your thoughts on the Chiefs offensive line? You mentioned the offensive line a little bit. You know, we can't hide it. They have one of the most, we talked about this before we went live, one of the most penalized players. I think he is the most penalized player in the league. What's his name again? I'm not familiar with
Taylor.
Juwan Taylor. Okay. So when you got an offensive lineman who already leads the league in penalties, going up against Bosa and Young and potentially Warner if they blitz, that's a little scary if you're a Kansas City fan, at least from my perspective. I don't know how you feel about that. Do you think penalties may decide how this Kansas City offense goes, or are you not too worried about it?
Here's the thing. If we get the Chiefs, if we get the version of the Chiefs that's been playing in the playoffs, I don't think penalties will be really an issue. Now, Kansas City has had 2 touchdowns taken off the board this postseason due to penalties. They had the holding call on Trey Smith in the Ravens game right before halftime, where Rashid Rice scored a 40-yard touchdown. That one got wiped off the board. And then there's one other one, I think it was the Dolphins game, that a touchdown got wiped off the board due to a penalty, and they had to settle for 3. I do think Kansas City's playing some really clean football as of late. They're limiting turnovers, they're limiting penalties. I think the offensive line is hitting its stride right now. And I know that, like I said, they're going to be out without their number one O-lineman potentially, or probably. I think he's listed as doubtful right now, especially playing with the torn pec. I wouldn't really expect you to start a Super Bowl, and he wouldn't be 100% healthy anyway. So I don't know. I'm still pretty confident in this offensive line. I feel like if the interior 3 is able to get run blocks up the middle against the Niners front 7, which is one of the strengths of the Niners, I feel like Kansas City could run the ball all day long, which opens up the play action game, which opens up the deep shot game. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about the deep shot and like the passing game. The 49ers have been struggling a little bit against the pass. I mean, granted, Jordan Love did throw 2 interceptions against them, but he had 2 touchdowns, and Jared Goff didn't play terrible against them as well. It helped them get an early lead, as well as the run game was a little struggled a little bit, and it was a little shocking to me, and it scares me as someone that is obviously with a 49ers jersey on, is hoping that the 49ers win the Super Bowl. With Pacheco starting to see, I don't know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like the last game was a great sign for the run game for the Chiefs because Pacheco was able to find holes, able to get the ball moving, which helped set up that passing game that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, Pacheco's been playing some great ball as of late. He's one of the better playoff players that the Chiefs have had over the last 2 years. One of the more underrated storylines, I think, this week that no one's really talking about is Jerick McKinnon has been activated off of IR. So could we see Jerick McKinnon in the Super Bowl? He was huge for Kansas City last year. Obviously, he had one of the most clutch plays in the Super Bowl, sliding down at the 1-yard line to kill more clock. He's always a willing pass blocker. Great receiving back, and overall just has great veteran leadership on the field. It's a guy you want out there. So I think if he's able to go and they have their main 3 backs all healthy and Pacheco, CEH, and McKinnon, I think Kansas City's got a lot of different options that they can throw at San Francisco. And one weakness I do see in the Niners defense as well is the jet sweeps that they allowed. I feel like Bosa and Young both go up the field so much because they want to get after the passer, as they should usually. But we saw in the Lions game, Jameson Williams was able to get around the edge and break free for a 40-yard touchdown on the first drive of the game. And the last time these 2 teams faced off in 2022, Kansas City had 2 jet sweep touchdowns against them because both their defensive ends were rushing up the field so much. So I feel like Kansas City's got to implement some of that in this game on Sunday in order to have a chance.
Completely agree. Real quick, just so we can hit on it, we said that we would mention it at some point. We're going to talk about the halftime show. What are your thoughts on this halftime show this year? Are you big Usher guy? You listen to Usher at all? I mean,
when's the last time Usher released a song? And I'm not trying to be an Usher hater, but like,
so I've been told that he has released a song, and it was with some other artist in a different genre of music or whatever, and apparently it was a very popular song. But
if the first song out there isn't "Yeah" and Ludacris doesn't pop out, I'm not watching the halftime show.
That's okay. So I was going to ask you, do you think they're because he's not going to perform by himself? A lot of his songs, honestly, a lot of the songs that he's made that have become hits are songs with people, other people. And
if I don't see Ludacris and Lil Jon pop out, I'm not watching the halftime show. I'm going in the kitchen.
Part of me, like, do you remember? I don't know if many people remember this, but like, wasn't Usher the person that helped discover Justin Bieber?
Dude, that question's over my head. I have no idea.
Anybody know? Anybody like? I swear he was involved. I don't know. I know that those 2 like performed together on a couple live shows when Bieber was still like getting started. But I don't know why that just makes perfect sense for him to show up at some point. But yeah, no, Usher, a lot of his songs are songs that have other people featured in it. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of stars throughout this. And it begs the question, does Taylor Swift make a halftime show appearance? Okay, I know that she's going to be in Japan, I think. I've seen all the, like, she's not going to be in
No,
Japan
she's
anymore.
going to be in the Super Bowl. She
But,
bought,
like,
I
no,
think
she
she's,
was going to be, no, she
oh,
was going to
yeah.
be in Japan the night before. They did
Yeah.
that whole, like, travel thing of how she's going to get
Yeah.
there. Like, hear me out. What if she, like, doesn't show up for the first half? And everybody's like, what's going on? And then, like, something happens in the middle of halftime show where they like do a breakdown of one of Usher's songs, and then out pops Taylor, and the crowd would absolutely lose it. And honestly, social media might break if Taylor Swift actually performs a song in the Super Bowl.
That
It's just
would be pretty absurd and crazy if that were to happen. Here's my reasoning why I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Taylor wants to take the attention away from Travis in this game. I think she realizes how big of a game this is for Travis, that I don't think she wants to take the attention and put more pressure on Travis than he already has going into this game.
well, then she shouldn't be dating him. That's sorry. That's
But
kind
like,
of
no,
weird. I
okay,
get
but
what you're saying.
hear me out though. Like your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever is performing and playing in a game, and you're just gonna randomly pop into the halftime show, bring a bunch of eyes on you, and then your spouse or whatever. Wouldn't that just put a little bit more pressure on you? I mean, if I'm Travis, I'm sure they've had that conversation where it's like, hey, just kind of lay low or something during the game. I know the
Mhm.
cameras are going to be on you, but like you're not going to try to make a halftime performance, are you? And I know she's already publicly declined performing at the Super Bowl. She declined this one back in August. She was offered it,
Yeah,
and
it just
maybe
makes
the
sense.
reason why she
It would be
declined is because she was dating the whole time. But
tinfoil hat says that she's going to show up at some point. It
okay,
just makes too much sense. Tinfoil hat. Now, do I want it to happen? Personally, no. I, but I'd rather have Ludacris show up, like you mentioned.
yes,
But
sir.
I just wanted to bring that up. If she doesn't show up, if she's not there at the first quarter, I swear tinfoil hat's going on. It's going to be
Then
all.
I'll start to get behind your conspiracy. But you know the NFL is going to try to show her, put the
Oh
camera
yeah,
on her within the first 10
that
minutes of the game. As soon as Kelsey gets his first catch, camera's going to go straight to Taylor.
Well, honestly, I bet you the camera's on her before the opening kickoff happens.
That's fair. They're going to show up, highlight all the
And,
celebrities that are at the game.
and again, okay, I've made jokes about it all year, blah blah blah. It's not her, it's the broadcast people that are overdoing it. She's even like kind of made it that point anyways. So if she's shown on the camera on TV this weekend, I'm not going to actually complain because it's
No.
not her choice. You could even tell when they were promoting the Grammys against the Ravens, she didn't want to be on the camera, but it was one of the first times they are actually promoting her for something that she's involved in.
I hate the people that are getting upset when they show her on the camera. And it's like you said, she doesn't have it's not like she has someone that's running the cameras like, hey, after Kelsey gets his third catch, you better show the camera to me. She's just trying to be a fan and just watch from a side and watch your boyfriend play. And people are just getting mad at her for no reason whatsoever, in my opinion. I feel like that's completely unfair to her.
I completely agree. I can't wait for my mom to see or hear that I actually supported Taylor for something. But here we are. Let's get back to the game here. Again, we talked about the 49ers defense versus the Chiefs offense. Let's kind of switch over to the 49ers offense and the Chiefs defense. Who do you think are the X factors when talking about the matchup between the Chiefs defense and the 49ers offense? Because again, Chiefs defense been great this year, one of the best in the league. Of course, not Ravens quality of what people may think of a great defense, but still a defense that gets the job done and is able to cause chaos against very good offenses.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City's defense, like you said, I've been saying since the postseason started, I believe they're a top 2 defense, and I think they're the best defense remaining in the playoffs. I
Yep.
think pretty you can't really argue with that point. I know the Niners have a great defense, but Kansas City's been playing out of their mind this postseason. The matchup I'm really watching for is if Kansas City's able to stop the run. And I know they've had some issues against Buffalo and stopping the run. I do believe that was a game plan strat for Buffalo to run. I don't believe it like that was a personnel where it's like, hey, there's no way we could stop Buffalo's running attack. So I do feel like that was part of the game plan. If Kansas City's able to stop the run, dude, I really like their chances in this game just because all you have to get is to that 3rd and long, and that's when Spagnuolo is at his best, when he designs these crazy blitzes where he has a free safety blitzing and a corner blitzing and a defensive end dropping into coverage. And I think that's when Kansas City becomes really dangerous. And especially with the secondary that they have now, they're able to cover for 3 or 4 seconds and let that blitz come in. With L'Jarius Sneed back there, Trent McDuffie, Justin Reed, guys like that. That's really the matchup I'm watching for is if Kansas City's able to stop the run. If Kansas City's not able to stop the run, that's when San Francisco's at their best. When they were able to, like, same thing with Kansas City. When they're able to do play action, bootlegs, when they're able to get their playmakers in space, I think it's going to be a long day for Kansas City. But I do anticipate Kansas City being able to stop the run.
Yeah, being able to stop the run is very important against this 49ers team. And like you said, it opens up the offense. And a lot of people, McCaffrey just got the offensive player of the year yesterday. So, the Chiefs are definitely going to probably be focusing on him. And like you said, the Chiefs kind of have a way of manipulating teams into doing exactly what they kind of want to do. Mm-hmm. And so maybe the 49ers do come out and actually throw a little more to start the game. But that's exactly what the 49ers want them to do. I mean, the Chiefs probably want them to do because the Chiefs defense, like you said, they're able to bring these weird formations and bring these blitzes. And yes, they have Kittle and Juszczyk that can block, but if you only got 2 other guys that are kind of downfield on the play, you're kind of lost because Kansas City's coverage is really good as well.
Another matchup to watch is in his potentially last game as a Kansas City Chief. I don't want this to happen, but it's probably his last game of the Chiefs. Chris Jones, expect for him to have an absolute monster game. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying he's going to win Super Bowl MVP in this game, but don't be shocked if Chris Jones gets 2 sacks because I feel like the interior of this Niners offensive line struggles immensely sometimes. They're all pro left tackle and Trent Williams. We know how good Trent is. He's going to eliminate an entire side of a field with pass rush. No one's going to get around Trent Williams. The other side definitely can be had, and the interior can be had. And I know the Chiefs like moving Chris around from interior to rushing outside. So we'll see. Chris Jones has had some pretty big Super Bowl moments before. In the first game against the Niners, he was able to hit Jimmy G and force a pick on that play. And the amount of batted passes he had in that game was unbelievable. So if Chris Jones is able to have a huge game, dude, Kansas City's going to run away with this one.
And I mean, you said he's kind of a huge X factor. Is he your basically main X factor for this game? Let's get into one X factor for both teams.
I do think it is Chris Jones, just because if Kansas City is able to get pressure with 4, I think Kansas City wins the game. And I know Kansas City's going to dial up some blitzes that they send 5, maybe 6, but possibly even 7. But here's the thing. If Kansas City's able to just drop 7 in coverage and get pressure with Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Mike Dana, guys like that, I know that they're going to be without pass rusher Charles Omenihu this game. But I really like the matchup with the Chiefs defensive line versus the Niners line. So, yeah, I will probably go with Chris Jones for my X factor for the Chiefs. For the Niners, it's tough because I feel like the obvious answer is Christian McCaffrey just because of how, impactful he is when it comes to rushing the ball and catching the ball out of the backfield. But I'm going to go with your boy. I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk. I feel like if Brandon Ayuk – the reason I'm picking Ayuk is if Brock Purdy and Ayuk have a crazy good connection this game and Ayuk gets 7, 8, 9 catches and goes for 90 yards, maybe more, I feel like Kansas City is going to have to stop the blitzes and maybe put more in coverage, but then opens up more things. It allows for the Niners to run the ball more. So, yeah, I'm going to probably go with Ayuk for this one.
Man, you took mine for the 49ers because that's what I was like, Christian McCaffrey's like the obvious answer.
Oh, yeah.
Because if he doesn't do anything, the 49ers are in big trouble. Like I don't know how they are able to pull out a victory if McCaffrey doesn't have a good game. But Ayuk and Purdy's connection is so special. I don't think people realize how good of a connection it is with one another. Everybody talks about Purdy and Kittle, and don't get me wrong, those two together are great as well. But Ayuk has a way of changing the momentum in the game drastically in ways that I don't think Kittle can. And maybe it's because he's, more shiftier, he's got more speed and stuff like that. But I don't know. This Ayuk and Purdy connection is just it's not the same as Mahomes and
Kelsey.
Tyreek. Or no, I'm going like
Yeah.
Tyreek as in like when it comes to like being able to change the impact of a game, because Tyreek is in a stratosphere of his own. But
Tyreek Hill is already a
you
top
get what I
5
mean,
receiver
right?
all time. Yeah.
Because it's just those two together, they get each other. And I guess, Travis and Mahomes, like they understand each other, how they work on the offensive side of the ball. And so I don't think Purdy has to worry as much about what Ayuk is doing, because he knows that he's going to be able to find a way to get open. Kittle can too, and Debo can as well. I think it's kind of interesting. A lot of people aren't talking about Debo, which makes me wonder if he's going to be a sleeper for like a breakout game. Because, everybody's kind of talking about, will Kittle step up after kind of having a quietish? He was more of a blocker against the Lions, but stats wise, he wasn't there in the NFC Championship game. And McCaffrey, what is he going to do? Purdy, what's he going to do? No one's talking about Debo as well. So I'd be on the lookouts for that.
I would argue that Ayuk is the better receiver out of him and Debo.
Oh,
I would
completely
say
agree.
that Ayuk is the best receiver on that team, excluding Kittle.
Yeah.
Kittle's a tight end. Kittle kind of is an offensive lineman / wide receiver. Like Kittle can run routes, but he can block like Trent Williams sometimes.
And that's why like this matchup is so interesting, because the Chiefs, like you mentioned, they'll bring these random formations and blitzes on the defensive side, but 49ers do have Kittle, who is able to block just as good as anybody else in the league, which makes that offense tough to game plan against, because you don't know if he's going to block or if he's going to go out and try to catch a ball. And Juszczyk is basically another tight end as well. He lines behind Purdy all the time, but yet they'll give him the ball if needed. He's made some big plays for them in the playoffs.
Yeah, the amount of weapons that the Niners have is going to be a tough challenge for Kansas City. Obviously, I touched on it a little bit ago. Their Kansas City secondary has been phenomenal this year with Snead, Trent McDuffie, guys like that. But there's kind of a glaring weakness when it comes to linebacker for Kansas City. I know they have Nick Bolton, but Nick Bolton is not a pass coverage linebacker at all. He is a blitz linebacker, amazing run stopper. But so the Niners are going to have shots over the middle of the field that potentially Kansas City is going to have to try to cover up. Maybe put a safety there, maybe put Willie Gay back there, or Drew Tranquil back there. But there are definitely matchups for both teams that if they can exploit the other team's weakness, they could be a long game, or it could be a long game for the other team.
I mean, let's get into it. We've talked about both sides of the ball. Let's get into our game predictions.
No special teams talk? What?
I mean, we can talk about special teams. If we're going to talk about,
Moody's had his struggles this year.
That's
Watch out for Moody missing field goals.
If that's exactly what I was going to say. If we're going to talk about special teams, that's one-sided. Kansas City has the better special teams just because you cannot trust Moody right now. I really don't think you can trust him 100%. And that if it comes to 4th and 3, 4th and 1 situations where it's just inside his field goal range, I wouldn't be shocked if the 49ers go for it, just because I don't know if you can trust him in this kind of game, because he has lost them games before.
Yeah, knock on wood, the best kicker in the league this year has been Harrison Butker, and especially the last 5 games he's been on. I know he had the 5 field goal game against Cincinnati. He hit 4 field goals against Miami. He hit 2 against Buffalo, and he hit the 1 against Baltimore. And he's been on an absolute roll. Knock on wood, I think he's going to be the most impactful special teams player that the Chiefs have. Unless, I'll throw this hypothetical out there, if Kadarius Toney plays again, and they activate him, don't be shocked if they put him back at punt returner. We saw what happened last Super Bowl when he was able to take it 70 yards. It basically, I think, won the game for Kansas City because that set him up for first and goal on the 5-yard line. So don't be shocked if Tony plays in this game, that he could have a huge impact on the special teams.
For sure. And I mean, so let's get right into it with our game predictions. If you can't tell by the jerseys we're wearing, you probably know who we're going to be rolling with. But Dawson, well, at the same time, actually, both of our preseason picks to win the Super Bowl are in this matchup. So I'll let Dawson, who originally, I'm going to do it, had
All right, fine.
the
Whatever.
Kansas City Chiefs versus the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl, with the Chiefs winning. Dawson, who do you have winning in this 49ers Chiefs matchup?
Gee whiz, let me think about this one. I think I'll probably go Kansas City. Just got a gut feeling about it. No, in all reality, no, all jokes aside, I think Kansas City wins this game 21 or 27-21. I think the game gets flipped with a defensive touchdown or a huge defensive stop. Just like in last Super Bowl with the Nick Bolton scoop and score. I think that a crazy fumble happens or a crazy pick happens that basically changes the momentum of the game for Kansas City. So, yeah, that's my pick, 27-21, Kansas City over San Francisco.
Who's your Super Bowl MVP if that happens?
The thing is if the Chiefs win, it's going to be Mahomes regardless because they just love giving it to quarterbacks. Kelsey, I don't think a tight end has ever won Super Bowl MVP.
It's so hard for them to win it because it's the quarterback throwing it to him.
Exactly. Honestly, if Mahomes doesn't win it, I don't see another offensive player winning it. I think Chris Jones or like Trent McDuffie could win Super Bowl MVP. That'd
be great.
The stats out there, the last time a running back won Super Bowl MVP was 25 years ago, was Terrell Davis. We've seen receivers win, but Kansas City's not going to have, unless it's Rashid Rice, I guess. That's probably the only one that has a realistic chance. None of the Chiefs receivers are going to win. A tight end's never won it. I don't think Pacheco's going to win it. So if Chris Jones has 2.5 sacks, maybe 3, has a forced fumble or something, you can see him winning it. But I do think Mahomes at the end of the day is going to win Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, on the Kansas City side, if the Chiefs win, I do agree that it'll probably be Mahomes if it's an offensive player. It'd be cool to see a defensive player get it. I think, I'm trying to remember, is Von Miller the last defensive guy to win Super Bowl MVP?
I think you're right because it's Mahomes.
Because Cooper Kupp won it against the
Brady, Mahomes, Edelman, Foles.
Yeah, so I think it may be Von Miller.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. And but hey, we're kind of similar on the score situation with our predictions. Different team though. So full disclosure, I made the preseason prediction of the Chiefs and the 49ers matching up in the Super Bowl, with the 49ers actually winning the Super Bowl. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to go 24-20 49ers. I think that Christian McCaffrey could potentially have, like, I mean, if he wins the Super Bowl, he's going to cement his legacy as a Hall of Famer, in my personal opinion. But I think he could have a 2 to 3 touchdown performance against the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, trust me. Trust me on this. All-purpose yards.
I can't.
Oh, you don't want to go
Christian
over
McCaffrey big game. I can't, dude.
I forgot. You being a Hawk fan, I forgot about that.
I can't do that, bro. I still have that memory 8 years ago, what he did to us.
But Christian McCaffrey is one of the biggest X factors in the NFL. He's been able to change games for the 49ers. He's been able to change the offense for the 49ers since joining them after being traded from Carolina. I think he could have potentially like a close to 100-yard rushing game as well as close to a 100-yard receiving game. He could have like a all-purpose Super Bowl record. I don't know what the actual record is, so he might not actually come close to it depending on what it adds up to. But I think he will have an amazing game for the 49ers. I know that you said the Chiefs defense will be able to match up against him. We'll see what actually happens. But I'll have him as my Super Bowl MVP as well. It would be cool to see Brock Purdy get the Super Bowl MVP, of course. Disney will be making the movie the next year if the 49ers win, if we're being honest. He'll be called Mr. Irrelevant, or just call him relevant.
in process of being made right now.
Yeah.
If we're being
So,
if we're being honest, I feel like Disney already has the rights to that, and they're already making the movie right now.
and like I just said, they probably named it Mr. Irrelevant. Honestly, it'd be better if they just named it Relevant. That's it. Just relevant. But
Not bad.
no, I think the 49ers, pound for pound, the best team in the league, and they're going to finish the season 24-20 against this Kansas City Chiefs, and Christian McCaffrey is going to be Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, I mean, don't really. We're both pretty firm on our sides. We'll see.
Well,
Maybe next episode, you may or may not see me, or you may or may
you'll
not
see me
see
either
me.
way. You'll see me either way because
You
honestly,
you
real
may or may
quick,
not see me.
full disclosure, I have actual connections with people in Kansas City within the organization. So for me, if Purdy wins, that's great. I've been a Purdy guy since day one. It's been awesome to watch him, and it's great to see him actually reach the Super Bowl level that many Cyclone fans dreamed of seeing him reaching. But in reality, we weren't sure if that was actually going to happen at any point because a lot of people sleep on players coming out of Iowa State, and for good reason given the program's history until the last decade or so. But I also have connections with the Chiefs, and like I said, win or lose, I'm going to be happy because I know at least someone that I'm kind of rooting for is winning the Super Bowl. So really, I got the jersey on, but in reality, it doesn't hurt me either way.
This game definitely hurts me. I will flat out say it.
Especially if Christian McCaffrey.
Dude, if McCaffrey wins MVP, bro, oh my God, you won't see me for 3 weeks. I can't deal with another 400-yard, 5-touchdown performance. No, I just can't. Not again. You can't have two. Not when you do that to my favorite college team and my favorite pro team. I can't have the same person do that.
Okay, we're gonna be putting salt into this wound. For people that don't know, Dawson is a big Iowa Hawkeyes fan. Goes to the University of Iowa. Die hard, like we're talking black and gold to the bone.
That's why I'm wearing the black one, FYI. I can't wear a
Yes.
red jersey on campus.
Can't wear red on campus. But anyways, 2015 was it?
Mm-hmm.
His Iowa Hawkeyes, Dawson's Iowa Hawkeyes, made a trip to the Rose Bowl, and they were matched up not against a team, but against a player, and Christian McCaffrey.
Why are you bringing this up again, bro?
Christian McCaffrey, what did Christian McCaffrey do to your Iowa Hawkeyes?
No. We don't need to look this up again. No.
No, we're looking this up.
No,
What did Christian McCaffrey do? Oh, didn't he just break the record for all-purpose yards?
He may have had 450 yards and
scored a. I think he had a punt return, receiving touchdown, and a rushing touchdown.
Yeah, and he maybe had a passing touchdown in there too.
And so, it would just be sweet if Christian McCaffrey can give you Rose Bowl 2.0 against your Kansas City Chiefs.
I pray that doesn't happen. I'm okay with San Francisco winning if George Kittle has a huge game. I am not okay with San Francisco winning if Christian McCaffrey is the sole reason why.
Okay, Hawk fan. Now I want to pick at this because of course you want George Kittle to do well. Who would you rather? So this is hypothetical. The 49ers win either way in this hypothetical. Who would you rather not go off? Brock Purdy or Christian McCaffrey? From a Hawks fan's perspective, would you rather have Christian McCaffrey not go off, who destroyed you guys in the Rose Bowl, or Brock Purdy, who you guys actually had every win against him every time you matched up, but he's still an Iowa State Cyclone?
Honestly, I would rather have Christian McCaffrey not go off. The memory is still that bad in my head. I don't really care if Purdy goes off. Like, it's cool that he went to an in-state college in Iowa and is doing well. I think that is cool. I just physically and mentally cannot do another Christian McCaffrey game. I just can't. And I feel like I'm speaking for all Iowa fans that happen to be fans of the Chiefs, like including my father. I don't think my father could watch another CMC 2.0 game.
That's great. And that shows you how bad that beatdown was with Christian McCaffrey against the Iowa Hawkeyes.
We don't need to keep talking about it. You're just making me more mad and mad.
It was one of the few times where like I actually like, and again, you probably had your opportunities to do this as an Iowa fan watching Iowa State football, but one of the few times where like I legit laughed on how absurd this performance was by one person, because he literally took over that entire game.
I watch Iowa football. I have every year since I was like 8. This past year, I laughed every single game with how pathetic the offense was. Okay, I'm always laughing in the stands. Let the record be shown. I was always laughing of how pathetically bad our offense was.
That's great. But we'll sign off here for the week. We'll see if Dawson tunes in with us next week, depending on how this game goes. Chiefs and 49ers in the Super Bowl. Mahomes versus Purdy. I mean, you can't write a better script for.
We still got our bet going on. Remember, I have the AFC winner. You have the NFC winner.
So winner of this one will determine who has to. Is it make another person a meal or buy a meal? What are we doing?
Let's just buy. I'm not a very good. I'm not a very good cook.
I'm not a good cook either. So, 49ers win. Not only does Brock Purdy win for me, but at the same time I get a meal from Dawson. And if the Chiefs win, I mean, I guess, and then I'll buy you a meal. But for Dawson Livingston, I'm Brock Bierman. We are the Sports Nerds. Enjoy the game this weekend. Enjoy the halftime show. Enjoy all the extra stuff that come along with the Super Bowl.
Enjoy the commercials. We'll see which funny commercial. I'm sure we'll react to it next week when we do.
We'll definitely have to break that down for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, and for the sake of Dawson, hopefully Christian McCaffrey tames his performance.
Just
for his
50
sanity.
yards, 16 carries, 50 yards, nothing, maybe a few catches, but nothing more than that. No touchdowns, no nothing.
But yeah, enjoy the games, everybody. Hopefully, it's a good one. Let's be honest. Dawson's not a part of this conversation. For the people that aren't invested as a fan, diehards of these teams, we all just want it to be a good game. We don't want it to be a blowout one way or another. So enjoy the games. We'll be back next week to recap the 2023-2024 NFL season here on the Sports Nerds.